everybody. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Hope you had a pleasant weekend. The past few Mondays have been trading card games, but we're going to switch it up today because it is back. History by Mail, the month of July. And, okay, trying to remember. It's been the Patents and Inventions unit. What was last month? Last month was Thomas Edison's patent application for the electric light. So, let's get in and see what this month's has in store for us. Oh, here we go. O&W Wright Flying Machine. Application filed March 23rd, 1903. 3 sheets, sheet 1. I just saw, which one did I get? I think the Orville Wright relic out of the Inventors, box from, Pieces of the Past, I believe. Okay, so we've got the application there, the witnesses, Orville Wright, Wilbur Wright by some attorney. Holy monkey! United States Patent Office, to whom it may concern. Okay, so this is Specification of Letters Patent, application filed March 23rd, 1903, serial number 149220. Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright of Dayton, Ohio. Okay, so this is for their flying machine. Here's the plans with all the dimensions, just in case anybody would like to recreate it in their garage. And if you do, film it, because I think the entire world wants to see that. All right, so let us take a look at the transcript and the information. And actually, let's see if we can't, because it goes this way. So let's see if we can't. Yeah, there we go. We can keep the Wright Brothers flyer up there while we go through the actual text. All right. Excuse me. So here we go. The Wright Brothers Flying Machine Patent, March 23rd, 1903. Enclosed is the patent for improvements. Mind you, improvements to flying machines, aka they actually left the ground. Submitted by Orville and Wilbur Wright. The Wright brothers invented, built, and flew the world's first successful motor-operated airplane, the Wright Flyer, in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina in 1903. The enclosed patent, however, is not for the invention of a flying machine, obviously not because those had been around, but rather for a three-axis pilot control system. Interesting. Now, I've actually been to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, down in the Outer Banks, and been to the Wright Brothers Memorial. It's really, really cool because it's right on the sand dunes there. Very nice. If you're ever down that way, I recommend taking a little bit of a day trip and going out there. Early life. Wilbur and Orville Wright were born in 1867 and 1871, respectively. The Wright brothers, as they became known, were 2 of 7 children. See, that's something that I did not know. You didn't know about the other 5. Were 2 of 7 children born to Susan and Milton Wright, a church bishop who moved the family to various cities before settling in Dayton, Ohio. One day in 1878, Milton brought home a rubber band-powered toy helicopter. The brothers then built their own helicopter based on the toy's design. The Wright brothers later noted this toy as having sparked their interest in flying. Okay. Neither brother received a high school diploma. Well, I mean, in the late 1800s, not exactly uncommon. So in 1892, the Wright brothers opened a bicycle sales and repair shop, and in 1896, they began to manufacture their own brand of bicycles. Did know that. The same year, the Smithsonian Institution Secretary Samuel Langley flew a successful steam-powered aircraft. Interesting. In 1899, Wilbur wrote to the Smithsonian to request information about aeronautics. The first flight. The Wright brothers believed enough was known about effective engines and focused their efforts on aircraft balance and control. That's very smart. Wilbur studied birds and noticed how they could change the angle at the ends of their wings to lean into a turn, like how a bicycle rider turns. The brothers discovered a method of wing warping, which they later patented, using a system of pulleys and cables to twist the edges of the wood and fabric wings. Other early aircraft inventors assumed aircraft would mostly stay level in the air. Ooh, that's a dangerous assumption right there. Like other moving vehicles on land, and did not focus on flexibility and balance. Look, okay, I can understand the thought process, but at the same time, you have other vehicles, you're attached to the ground. The ground's not moving. There's nothing in the sky. In 1900, the Wright brothers began manned gliding experiments in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The location was chosen based on Weather Bureau data, remoteness from spectators and press, and proximity to Dayton. I mean, even to this day, it's still fairly a remote area. The Wright brothers gliders had two levels, double-decker and a curved top surface. In 1901, they built a glider with a large wingspan and made dozens of flights with distances up to 400 feet. Over the subsequent year, the Wrights continued to improve their design and made over 1,000 glides, recording each flight and perfecting their craft. Just a brief interlude. As Adam Savage from Mythbusters once said, the only difference between experimenting and screwing around is writing it down. The enclosed patent was based on their improved 1902 glider, which some historians consider the invention of the airplane even before power was added. In 1903, Wilbur and Orville built the Wright Flyer, the world's first successfully powered heavier-than-air aircraft. The Wright Flyer had a wingspan of 40.3 feet, a 12-horsepower engine, weighed 605 pounds, and cost less than $1,000 to build. The glider had made several short, successful flights starting on December 17, 1903, lasting up to 59 seconds. When the aircraft was hauled back after the fourth flight, a gust of wind flapped over it several times, and it never flew again. That I did not know. The Wright Flyer was shipped back to Dayton, and Orville later restored it. Today it is on display in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. I believe I've seen that years ago when I was there. In 1904, the Wright brothers built the Wright Flyer II, set up in an airfield near Dayton, and invited reporters with the condition that no pictures be taken, not wanting any trade secrets to be disclosed. Wind and engine troubles prevented them from flying, and reporters lost interest. In the fall of that year, Wilbur flew the first complete circle in the history of man-powered flight, which covered 4,080 feet in roughly 90 seconds. By the end of the year, their best flights exceeded 5 minutes, more than 3 miles, and included multiple circles. After a major crash in July 1905, the brothers adjusted the 3-axis controls to be maneuvered independently, improving stability and balance, and enabling flights of up to 24 miles. When reporters arrived the following day, the brothers refused to fly. The only photos of the long flights were taken by Orville and Wilbur themselves. Oh, I think we may have seen those photos. For years, many people were skeptical of the Wright brothers' achievements, and newspapers worldwide wrote about the alleged flights. After a flight of October 5th, 1905, the brothers refused to fly or show photographs of their aircraft in air unless they had a contract to sell their aircraft. Smart. The brothers wrote to the governments of the U.S., Britain, France, and Germany with offers to sell their flyer, but did not receive any sales due to skepticism that 2 bicycle mechanics could achieve what America's top scientists could not. The brothers eventually secured contracts with the U.S. Army and a French manufacturing company. The contracts were contingent on them completing successful public flight demonstrations, including flying with a passenger for at least 1 hour at an average speed of 40 miles per hour and landing undamaged. Well, in 1905, that's a series of very, very, very tall orders. Wilbur then traveled to France, where he stunned the French public, which flocked by the thousands to see the flights. The kings of Italy, Spain, and Great Britain also watched. Public opinion worldwide turned in the Wright brothers' favor instantly. President William Howard Taft bestowed honors on the Wrights, and they were treated as celebrities. In July 1909, the Wrights had completed their contractual demonstration flights and sold the airplane to the U.S. Signal Corps for $30,000. In October, Wilbur flew around the Statue of Liberty in a 33-minute flight viewed by nearly 1 million spectators. Now, you think about that. You think about that today. 1 million people watching something, that's kind of old hat for most things. But, because TV, internet, and whatnot. But 1 million people watching something in 1909, that is quite impressive to think about. The patent application and legal battles, as there always are. The enclosed 1903 patent, which the Wright brothers had written themselves, was rejected. They hired patent attorney Henry Toulmin, to file their next application and were granted U.S. Patent 821393, on May 22nd, 1906. Oh, interesting. So this one was rejected. For new and useful improvements in flying machines. The drawings included with the patent are of their 1902 glider. That would be that guy right there. Where was I? The patent describes wing warping to adjust the outer portion of the aircraft's wings, an adjustable rear vertical rudder, and a forward elevator used for ascent and descent. Together, the three-axis control allowed for a coordinated turn. Broadly interpreted, any functional aircraft produced in the U.S. would have to pay royalties to the Wright brothers to use their intellectual property. The brothers would go on to file several more patents, but the enclosed patent was the most essential. For the next decade, the Wright brothers filed several patent infringement suits. A German court ruled against the Wrights since they had publicly disclosed details of their axis control in speeches before their patent. Okay. In another case, a U.S. court ruled in the brothers' favor. Preoccupied with patent battles, the Wrights neglected to innovate, and European aircraft makers advanced beyond those in America. When the U.S. entered World War I in 1917, the Army purchased French aircraft due to the lagging technology and supply in America. While the Wrights had their supporters, many viewed their legal battles as evidence of greed, and their heroic status was tarnished. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about it that way. The Wright Company in final years. In 1909, the Wright Company was created, and the brothers sold their patents to the company. Wilbur was the president, and Orville was the vice president. Headquarters were set up in New York City with a factory in Dayton. In 1910, the Wright Company transported 2 bolts of dress silk from Dayton to Columbus in the first commercial cargo flight. By 1913, the U.S. Army had a death toll of 11 from Wright airplanes that had nosedived. While Orville blamed pilot error, the government moved away from aircraft with engines placed behind the pilots, which crushed pilots in crashes. Wilbur traveled around the country, consulting with patent lawyers and testifying until he died in 1912 from typhoid fever, which Orville partially blamed on the stress of legal battles. After his brother's death, Orville became president of the Wright Company, which he sold in 1915. He served on the board of the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, a precursor to NASA, for 28 years. On January 30th, 1948, Orville died at the age of 76 from a heart attack. Orville lived to see the transition of the world from the horse and buggy era to that of supersonic flight. The third of 4 documents in Patents and Invention. There is the website if you want to take a look at it. And honestly, this is one of those things, I kind of touched on it last month in saying that Edison, while, a quote unquote, a brilliant inventor, was not a good human being. And it's sad to say that, that's almost kind of what it sounds like to the Wright brothers. I did not know any part of that. I knew that Wilbur had died relatively early from typhoid, but I did not know any of the constant legal battles and the constant, so preoccupied with that they failed to do anything else. And that is just, it's kind of unfortunate when you lose sight of what's going on. But the one thing that, can forever be said is look at what they started. Yes, maybe they didn't get, it didn't go the path that they wanted, but at the same time, look at where it brought, the world. We've all seen those clips of the people with the helicopters with the corkscrew tops hopping up and down, very reminiscent of Da Vinci's drawings from, what would it have been from then, about 400 some odd years prior. Just incredible advancements in technology. And that's the whole point of this. They patented, and that's the thing, they made the grave error. If you disclose what you're doing before it becomes patented and or trademarked, everybody can use it, as they did. But regardless of anything, the one thing that you have to give to the Wright brothers is air travel. I think ultimately it would have happened, but it's just a question of how long it would have taken and what direction it would have gone. We are where we are now because of what the Wright brothers did over 100 years ago. And it's very interesting to think about. I love history by mail. I'm glad we got to do it. And hopefully you're enjoying it, because this is a really fun series. The Patents and Inventions, obviously next month, August, will be the final one of that. And then come September, we will start the final unit for the year 2025. And I can't wait for it. So let me know what you thought down below. Thank you to everybody taking the time to watch it. We will see you next time.